Rumors are true that Amazon will see a successful product on their platform and say, oh, we can make some money on that and create an Amazon basic version of it. What they did in this case was copy our bag stitch for stitch. It looks exactly the same, even down to the point like a design element is just this little Hypalon patch where we put our logo. They kept that patch the exact same shape and the exact same location on the bag and wrote Amazon instead of Peak Design on it. So we've seen knockoffs before, but we were like, this is egregious. This is crazy.
Taking a company from 1 million to 100 million is no easy feat, especially when you have competition and copycats coming at you from all angles. But Peak Design has fought off all those knockoffs, including a pretty blatant ripoff from Amazon Basics. But the upside to it, they did it with humor and panache in a way which has only endeared the company more to its loyal customer base. And side note, you should check out their awesome YouTube video showing the ripoff. It was hilarious. It gave me a good belly laugh. And those loyal customers are what took Peak Design from a simple camera utility bag company and turned it into a popular everyday bag and accessories outfitter for photography enthusiasts. Peak Design leaned into the idea of having a close relationship with its customers from the very beginning by letting their customers have a say in their product line by way of crowdfunding and Kickstarter campaigns. And that, according to Elish Patel, the VP of Growth and Digital at Peak Design, has made all the difference. On this episode of Up Next in Commerce, Elish explains how building that loyal customer base has helped the company stave off the blatant and more subtle competitors. And Elish talks about how Peak Design is using unique marketing and content strategies to take people from browsing to actually buying. Enjoy this episode. Before we get into the episode, I would love it if you could hit subscribe and give the show a rating and review. I really want to know what you think and hear how we're doing. All right, on to the interview. Really quick, I want to say thank you to our awesome sponsor, Salesforce Commerce Cloud. And I'm going to allow them to give you the inside scoop into some of the findings from their most recent State of Commerce report.
Hi, this is John from Salesforce. Did you know that companies of all sizes and industries power their digital customer journeys with Commerce Cloud? Salesforce Commerce Cloud delivers B2B and B2C commerce, as well as order management around the globe. And with Commerce Cloud, you can engage with your customers anywhere and personalize interactions everywhere. Scale and innovate with ease and drive some serious growth for your business. And speaking of innovation, we recently surveyed nearly 1,400 commerce leaders and analyzed the consumer shopping and business buying behavior of more than 1 billion customers worldwide. And we uncovered emerging trends that will influence how companies can be successful and stay ahead in this ever-evolving landscape. To check out the trends we discovered, go to sfdc.co/commerce insights. That's sfdc.co/commerce insights, one word.
Welcome everyone to Up Next in Commerce. I'm your host, Stephanie Postles, CEO at Mission.org. Today on the show, we have Elish Patel, who currently serves as the VP of Digital and Growth Strategy at Peak Design. Elish, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to catch you before you journey into the Redwoods to get some content for your company. And I was hoping we can kind of just dive right into Peak Design because your story is super fascinating. Right before this, you were talking about how when you came in, it was like a sub $1 million company. Now it's at almost 100 million.
We definitely had a pause in that. We did somewhere around 70 last year, and we're hoping to grow to that 100 soon. So yeah, we're coming right up against it.
Okay, I mean that's an amazing story. That's why I was like, we need to start there. I don't want to run out of time.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a bit about what is Peak Design and how long have you been there, and a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, I've been with Peak Design for about 6.5 years. I met Peter Deering, our founder and CEO, in a bar in Berkeley after a concert. We just sort of hit it off. So
what
it was
concert?
one of those. It was an Alt-J concert at the Berkeley Greek. So it was one of those like classic, I don't know, Silicon Valley chance meetings. And I was doing marketing consulting in the Bay Area at the time, and he needed a little bit of help on the digital side. So a little bit about Peak Design. Peter Deering had this idea of a camera accessory, basically to hold your camera on the outside of your body, usually on a backpack strap or your belt, while you're doing some more strenuous activities, whether you're hiking, biking, stuff like that. So you could get to your camera easily instead of it being, tucked inside your bag, and you would miss that shot, as we say. So he got lucky, if you will. The universe aligned in that that was the early days in 2010 of Kickstarter. And he was just going to, find someone to make it and try to get it in stores. But someone was like, hey, why don't you do a Kickstarter? Put it on Kickstarter. Some people found it, wrote a story on it. I think it was in Gadget or something like that. It blew up. He did $300 something thousand on Kickstarter. That year, it was something like the third biggest Kickstarter. Again, early days of Kickstarter. There's now crazy ones. And that was the birth of Peak Design. From there, kind of deepened into the Kickstarter and product of photography product world. And we became one of the first companies to do a second Kickstarter. So that's how we started just launching products on Kickstarter. And what we found with that is Kickstarter just has this fanatic base who became our evangelists. And we created this really one-on-one relationship with our customers that felt and do have a say in the design of our products. And they feel invested in our brand. And we continue to do that. In fact, we've done 10 Kickstarters to this point. We've raised over $37 million on the platform, fully crowdfunded, which means we've never taken investors, and we get to make decisions like being a part of 1% for the planet. We founded a climate neutral nonprofit to help companies become to offset their carbon. We basically chart our own path, and that allows us also to make the best things. We don't cut corners on any of our products. So,
yeah, that's amazing. We haven't had too many companies on the show that, went the Kickstarter route. I think I can only think of like one or two. What were some of the lessons, maybe when you launched the first time to the second to the 20th time, that maybe things that you started adjusting over time?
So some of the biggest things we adjusted were they came with just the changes in the world of marketing, right? With the rise of social media. And in the last few campaigns, the influencer became so much more a part of our campaign, especially the last two, YouTube. There was Facebook, then there was Instagram, and then YouTube's been around for a long time. But then we layered on YouTube specific influencers, and that's its whole other own community, especially in the photography world. And then, relearning that YouTube in and of itself is a great search engine place where you can put evergreen content. There's one piece of influencer content that I have up on YouTube that I placed 2 years ago that still brings in $5,000 a month.
Wow. Okay. What's this content?
Well, we sponsored a video for basically someone, and we're pretty adamant to make sure that if you're gonna review our product and you want to leave a positive review, we're not just like forcing people to do that. We give them the product, they love it, they're like, I love this, I want to talk about it. And usually for the bigger influencers, they're like, I love this product, I want to put it up. It usually costs like $30,000, this or that. So we did that. It got up on YouTube. I don't want to say the name just to blow up his spot or not. But put it up there, did a great review of it, kind of talked about the pluses and minuses, linked to the campaign below in the comments. And that video, which because it did so well, they keep on their page and still draws traffic when you're, especially if the campaign was for our Peak Design tripod, our travel tripod. And so when you type into YouTube, tripod, especially people are searching for like how to use a tripod, this and that, it's one of the top things that comes up. And so people go watch that video and this is a cool tripod. They'll click the link, and it still brings in a lot of traffic and a lot of revenue.
That's really cool. Are you still using Kickstarter today?
We just did our last Kickstarter in December. We did it for our new mobile line of products. We kind of went from photography, thinking that this iPhone is literally the best camera that everyone carries around on a daily basis. So we wanted to create a line of products for that. So we did that in December, and that was our last one. Are we going to continue to do Kickstarters? Probably, but we've done 10 of them, and it's got to end someday, maybe. I don't know. We'll
Why?
see.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm like, man, it sounds like it's like going so well. I haven't heard of enough brands probably utilizing that, but it does feel like maybe that market is pretty saturated. And it just seems like there's a lot on there when you go and start looking through products that are launching and what you can fund. It just feels like a lot more than, maybe when you guys started out.
Well, it's also, we were part of this cohort that proved the model. And then now it's easier than ever to go and make and design a product in China or Vietnam, wherever you're producing. In fact, there's full factory cities where you show up with an idea and they'll help you make it. And that also feeds into the system. So like, it's the problem with knockoffs in our brand as well. Like people are copying our stuff. You just go there, and that's the other part that saturated Kickstarter and Indiegogo are these kind of half thought out, brandless products. So yeah, it's kind of easy to get lost in the fray there as well.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about knockoffs that you just mentioned, because right before the interview, I was watching a very fun video that you guys put together because of Amazon knocking off your bag. And I was hoping you can kind of touch on the inspiration behind that and, you know, how you think to approach companies who are knocking off your product.
Yeah, it's a funny story, obviously. So the backstory is that we make this bag called the Everyday Sling. It's literally, that's the name. We have a TM on the term Everyday Sling. And we do sell on Amazon. And before the pandemic, we had a large amount of our direct revenue on Amazon. And the rumors are true that Amazon will see a successful product on their platform and say, oh, we can make some money on that and create an Amazon basic version of it. What they did in this case was copy our bag stitch for stitch. It looks exactly the same, even down to the point like a design element is just this little Hypalon patch where we put our logo. They kept that patch the exact same shape and the exact same location on the bag and wrote Amazon instead of Peak Design on it. So we've seen knockoffs before, but we were like, this is egregious. This is crazy. And I guess internally, I'm lucky enough, you know, we've never been a brand that kind of does the patent trolling thing or anything like that. We're sort of, we build our own moat as far as around our design process. It actually is extremely expensive to make our products because of how functional and quality they are. And that's part of our own moat as well, built into the brand. But because this looks so much like it, we were like, this is insane. It's actually a far cheaper, like low quality product. Our bag went for $100. They put it on there for $20. And yeah, and they called it the Amazon Basics Everyday Sling. They didn't even change the name, which was insane. They called it the.
I mean, why? There's already a good name. Might as well just jack that too.
Exactly. So we just, you know, I work with our marketing team. We're kind of all jokesters here, and Adam Saraceno, our head of marketing, has gotten really adept at writing our scripts for videos. And he wrote the script for this video and just came up with the idea. And we've got an in-house video team and we're recording it. And we had this plan, you know, we're going to make that video, put it on YouTube, we'll send it in an email. We put it up, we sent it out, and it caught fire on some forums, just started making its rounds. Before we knew it, we had something like 500,000 views, and then that took off even more. I think the video has over 4 million views at this point. But the idea was like, are we going to sue Amazon? Like we're a fly to them. What can we do? We can trust that our customers can like laugh at this along with us, and we can poke a little fun at them. That's all we can do. And that's what we did, and kind of like point out. And if you watch the video, we sort of point out that you have a choice when you buy stuff. So you can buy our stuff where we're Blue Sign verified. We're now fair trade. We pay our factories workers far above the local wages in their local. We produce in Vietnam. We're very honest about that. We offset all of our carbon, and we lifetime warranty everything. It's going to last you forever. If it doesn't, we'll replace it. Amazon, you get what you pay for. Like that's our message. So that's just, it's easy to get frustrated, but I think it's probably better for your brand just looking at the long term. Just stick to your guns, trust your brand, trust your product.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what I loved about the video, because it was so masterfully done. And it's always a good reminder of why, you know, like you said, frustration, anger probably won't connect with many people, because a lot of times, I mean, I think anyways, people want to see funny stuff, happy stuff. Yeah. And the video was perfect where it's like, oh, if you don't care about all the bells and whistles, like all the stuff you just named, you know, paying people up market. And it was just so well done, especially when they were drawing it out, like drawing out the product and being like, oh, do we want something that's actually, you know, good quality? Now take that out and take that out. And it was just really well done. And I'm not surprised it took off. Yeah. What else helped get it in front of people to really help spread it?
It was mostly word of mouth. We definitely put a few advertising dollars behind it. When it took off, we amplified it. just because it was resonating with so many people. And I think that's important. Like, especially in digital marketing, you're testing content all the time. You're like, is this working? Is that working? This was obviously working. I didn't need to test it against anything else. So yeah, we put some ad dollars behind it on Facebook to kind of get it out there as well. But after we had about 500,000 views on it.
Yeah, I also saw you tagging like Jeff Bezos and the Amazon support team and all these other people. I'm like, oh, that's good. But also, once again, the way you were doing it was just funny. Like, I can't remember the Twitter copy of what you guys were saying, but it was really funny.
That was Joe Callender on our team. And he was like, I remember him messaging Adam and I going like, hey, I'm writing these tweets back to these people. I'm putting this, like, it's a little edgy. Is that okay? We're just like, dude, gloves off, man, go for it. And he really went for it. And I think it turned out really well. I like a lot of the YouTube comments because like there are definitely some people in the YouTube's got the worst trolls, I think. YouTube, there's definitely a few people like, why am I going to spend 100? And I'll just get this $20 one. And he would just write something like, we love that for you.
That's great. It kind of reminds me of like Morning Brew. I don't know if you've ever seen them like respond to people, or like Wendy's.
Yes.
Best Twitter channel where they like reply to people and kind of have it out with them. And I'm like, I love it because they stay so close to their brand and their voice and keep it funny. So hats off to your team for knowing how to keep it on brand and keep it engaging for people.
Yeah.
When Amazon came out with the knockoff product, and I think you said you've had other companies as well knock off your product. What kind of result did you see on sales? Like, did you see a direct impact right when they came out of like, oh shoot, our daily revenue just went down like in half, and now we need to figure out how to like claw our way back in front of our customers?
Luckily, the Amazon thing made people buy our bag more. I'm sure it lifted their sales as well because we just got like so much hoopla, and it got a lot of press attention. Pete, our CEO, was like, doing the rounds on a bunch of the media channels. On the other ones, we really didn't notice. And if anything, it riled up our customer base because they would see it and he'd be like, this is just like my Peak Design bag. And this is just like this. And their claws would come out and they go after it. And that's definitely, I attribute that to, our Kickstarter base and how we formed as a company of like, we created this sort of like place where people thought they were part of the brand. And so like they'll step out to defend it as well.
Yep. Oftentimes I don't see brands maybe highlighting all their differences. That's why I loved your video when you're like, here's the 5 or 6 things that we do that you'll never find with an Amazon basic. Did you guys maybe change your strategy or how you were messaging that? Because maybe before you weren't as upfront about like, here's why you should buy with us.
I'm glad you brought that up. We definitely started steering away from it because early on in our brand, we certainly did that. When we started making camera straps, we were like, this is how the other people work. This is how ours works. And then we were just like, maybe the product can just stand on its own. And it did because the functionality of our product was so different for so long. But again, that was a unique scenario where our product was absolutely different than the competitors. And now the competitor is copying our product. So now, we're kind of forced to be like, they copied it, but not very well. So it's almost like we need to kind of inform our consumer of the pitfalls of trying to buy something that's similar to ours, but probably fails on quality and functionality. So they're kind of getting duped by getting these cheaper made knockoffs.
Yeah. It's definitely important to come back to the roots of like, you have to defend your ground, and you might lose sight of that for a bit, but it's interesting to hear how it kind of comes full circle of like, okay, lean back into our differences. So the one thing I wanted to kind of circle back to was going through like what it looked like when you joined the company when it was sub 1 million, and then where it's at now, close to 100, and talking about, like, I know we were just talking about earlier how you're going to go into the Redwood Forest, you're going to be creating your own content and thinking through your marketing tech stack. And I want to kind of hear what that evolution has looked like, because I think you mentioned that the team didn't scale up with that revenue as much as maybe other companies would have done. And I just want to hear behind the scenes of like what that looked like.
Credit to Pete, our CEO, and he's been extremely protective of our company culture, right? So like we're pretty tight-knit group of people. We're close, I think like 38, maybe close to 40 people. When I joined, we were 10 people. and it was just me and one other marketing person. And as I mentioned, like a lot of that was to keep culture tight, but also, we tried to prioritize what we need to do and not do too much more than that. One of our mission and value statements is to prioritize happiness over growth. And so when you start adding too many people, sometimes you end up literally looking for work for them to do. And then you're managing all those people. And then the business becomes about managing people, which is a part of a brand, but like less so than the product. So we're definitely a product focused company, and it's about letting the marketing stand on the quality of the product. And so what we've done to enable that is rely on creating a really good network of third parties. So, our shipping is third party, our warehouses are third party. We have some in-house customer service, but we have a little bit of outsourced customer service as well. For marketing, we rely both on my strategy and executional knowledge, but we amplify that with an external digital agency. And what that allows us to do is remain really nimble. During the pandemic, we didn't have to lay off anybody. We didn't make any pay cuts. We've been profitable since day one because we haven't had to push scaling because of not having investors as well that say, we need you to make this much profit in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
That's been really stressful because we have been growing really quickly. But again, what it came down to is what's important in this moment? Okay, we're launching this new product. Let's put all eyes there. Let's make the right content, get it in the right place. And I think we're going through another little phase of growing pains where we now have a very large assortment of SKUs, and we're feeling the pinch of trying to maintain the attention on them across the board. And then also making sure that we're supporting our retail and wholesale accounts. Half our business is, from places like B&H and REI, and we're distributed around the world. They need tons of content as well. They need our help on making sure the brand is represented correctly. And it's becoming a lot of work. And we've been scaling on our design and creative side, but there's starting to be a pinch on the more technical and stuff. So we're trying to think through, does that mean a bigger agency? Do I need to start hiring more internal people? I think it's going to be a combination of the both. I think it's going to be a skeleton crew internally that is really good at handling or wearing a lot of different hats, but then managing some external help as well to make sure that it sort of amplifies our abilities.
What's the best way to structure it when you're working with agencies to make sure that you can scale yourself? Like you said, you're kind of one of the people who are, here's the vision and okay, go. How do you make sure that it scales in a way that, it's not kind of totally going off course?
Oh man, that's a really good question. And I can't honestly say I've figured it out.
You're I'm not sure.
I'm really not sure. I got to be honest about that. I think it's, I'm going through it right now. And I think, to be quite honest, I think I haven't been able to, there's only so many hours in a day. There honestly is that require attention. And it's really hard to separate or to combine strategy, deep thinking and execution. You have to turn one off to do the other. And I think that's been a hard lesson that I've learned over the last year and a half, which is I do need time to just sit and write and think while I'm not executing. And so I'm really thinking about making sure I separate those roles for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard question and a good thing to figure out, but you have time. Yeah. There's no rush.
Yeah.
So what does new customer acquisition look like? How are you guys approaching, finding new customers and maybe keeping your current ones?
Yeah. So there's the classics, which we definitely continue to double down on, which is, it's funny, PR is an age-old thing, but it's still so important, and making sure that you stay just in the conversation. And for me, when I'm thinking about going forward, we've been so getting into the gear reviews and top 10 lists, and I'll never trust the best of list ever again after being in the industry, because it's not
how much did you pay to get that spot?
or who do you know? Exactly. It's not someone went looking for the best stuff and this is what I found. It's all that stuff was definitely put there. But to me, it's about the conversations you're starting around your brand and the industry as well. So when it comes to our mobile product, like we're trying to stir up the conversation of like, what else do you do with your phone? Like, how do you use it in your daily life? Like, is having just the skin on it that doesn't do anything useful? Because we are using it elsewhere, in our car, on our desktop. So do you have to just like pound people with your product, or can you talk to them about it and start the conversation? So that's obviously where I started digital marketing and paper, Facebook, social media advertising, Instagram, TikTok, obviously Reddit. But man, that whole industry, I think, is going through an upheaval currently, obviously, with the change in privacy and data that Facebook and Google and everybody is facing. And it's making everybody sort of rethink about how they're stacking that in their marketing funnel. And I think it's a good thing. I think people are starting to think about the intentions and nature of their message in their advertising again, as opposed to, oh, if we change this button to red instead of blue, like that's gonna, like what intention is that except to drive conversion? And I think people have been overthinking the data part for a really long time, instead of kind of trusting your marketing instincts / knowing that, or just not really paying attention to the marginal benefit of spending a week trying to figure out what color a button needs to be, what else could you have done with that? So, yeah.
Yeah. So what are you guys doing? Because I mean, I think it's such a scary world for a lot of brands who have relied on that pixel tracking and, everything they've been used to. It feels like you have to kind of move quick, make decisions in an unknown world where you're like, I don't really know how this should operate. How are you guys thinking about it moving forward?
Well, you can still track the classics, which are engagement. You can track, and then layering in other strategies of making sure, you're getting first party data. So, your email capture and the campaigns you're doing with that. Before we could track everything, we were still trusting things like how many people are seeing it, impressions, and the quality of someone's audience. So on an influencer campaign, but also, again, being a part of the conversation in places like Reddit, TikTok, and making sure that is sort of like a constant stream of content, as opposed to these big advertising things where people are just blind to them now. Like I don't remember the last ad. I definitely learn about people or a brand. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But it's pretty rare that I click, and we've seen that on Facebook's ROI, and every number across the board has tanked over the last few years. You used to put an ad, it could have anything in it, and you'd get a 10x ROI. Now we struggle to get 3,
Yeah. So what channels and platforms are you trying out now? Because to me, like TikTok sounds like the perfect area. I get so many photography tips on there. Absolutely. I don't know if you've seen all those videos.
Yeah.
I'm like, that seems like a perfect channel if you can keep that content going though. But what are you guys betting big on?
Yeah, we're exploring TikTok. I don't know if we're betting big there because our demographic is a little bit older. I do have a theory that there's a very active demographic in that we're in the 25 to 40 range. I think people 25 to 40 are still actually really active on TikTok. They're just not.
I am. Yeah, I'm slap dab in the middle. I'm on it.
But they're consumers. They're not posters. They're not commenters, which is fine. And I think that is going to be somewhere where we'll probably spend a lot of energy. We're definitely doubling down on content pieces like on YouTube and places, again, where we can talk directly to the population. Email is still a really big thing, and customizing that consumer journey on how we reach them on that. So when they reach our website, what are they seeing? Where are they looking? Where are we sending them? Yeah, those are big. And then I'm obviously looking at Reddit. Reddit's had a pretty big limelight over the last few months, just with the GameStop stuff. But otherwise, I'm open to suggestions, so send them my way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard too many people talk about Reddit. Are you just thinking about kind of going after Reddit influencers in a way who are talking about, what kind of bags to use and, or how are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I think we're going to look at it from like the social media manager perspective, someone who's going to go in there and just start conversing. We do have, especially with a gear focused product line, people are like, oh, what do you use for your Canon camera? What do you use for your Nikon camera? And then just inserting ourselves on an organic level there. I don't know about Reddit influencers yet, but certainly something to consider. But I want to keep that as organic as possible to start out with.
Yeah. Yeah. It always seems hard to scale those efforts when you want to go about it in an organic way, but then thinking, okay, one person can only comment and keep up with so many threads. And then if they also have to do Facebook and Instagram and everywhere else, it seems hard unless you continually like to hire more people.
Yeah, the scaling part is hard. I'll be interested to see if there's ever a good agency that can figure out how to represent your brand well. So
we know, because we have not found it. And we've tried many. I keep trying and trying. I'm like, one day we're going to find someone perfect.
Same.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think there's something to the frictionless way of shopping on a lot of these platforms. I even think about TikTok. I'm like the quiet consumer who's looking through all the stuff, enjoying it, but then I will go and open up a Chrome browser to find that product. So I'm like, I'm the worst kind of consumer.
Yeah.
You have no attribution on me. You don't even know where I came from. And but I think there's something there where it's because that platform still feels like there's a little bit of friction from going from that video. Sometimes it, flips so quickly. I don't have time to click. Is there even something to click? Seems like there's a lot of room for growth around, making it easy for the customer to buy.
Well, there's been a movement to do like the specific app, the app-based experience. Allbirds did a really good job of it. I just downloaded the Nike app. Just being like, oh, I need a new pair of shoes. And I like saw on their website, I was on my phone, and then they were like, get the Nike app. And I downloaded it. This is at the airport, and I bought a pair of sneakers right there. Cause I was like, those are cool. Cause this definitely works for someone with a much larger SKU count, but like they served me a product that they thought I would like. I don't know how they figured that out, but they figured it out somehow. Maybe they just have really good products. And I was like, that's cool. And then they had everything built in, Apple Pay, all that stuff, made it super easy. And it was like, it was kind of scary. It was one of those situations where I hit buy, and like before I knew it, it was paid for and was shipping to me. And I was like, wait, did I mean to do that? And I did.
My finger just went there and it just happened. And now I have shoes coming.
Exactly. So I thought that was really cool and something. We've done a lot of work on our mobile experience, but we have a lot of work to do. And I think most websites I go to have a big thing to figure out for the mobile experience.
That's something I've thought about for a while now, because previously at spots I've worked before, many people talked about going to like an app-free world, and apps were kind of like a thing of the past. And I even kind of noticed that in my own history. It's like you get a phone early on, you get a billion apps, you run out of storage, you kind of chill out a bit. You're like, I don't need all these apps anymore. I don't want to try everything. Then storage gets easier. So then you're like, well, maybe I'll try a few more. But now I'm back in the stage where I'm like, I'm good with just like a couple things. I don't want like everything there. So how do you see it? I think you mentioned Allbirds did this too. Like, what do you see that future looking like, and how should brands maybe try it out there?
Yeah, I think we're, to your point, we're trying to figure it out again. I like that app experience for a couple reasons, which was, when you become a fanatic or just really into a brand, you're okay having that, because what Nike and Allbirds are also doing well is serving up really good content on those apps. So like I'm inclined to go into the Nike app because they've got something cool to put me in. Even if I'm not buying something, I'll go look and read about it. So that's a big play. And then I think what you hinted at earlier is the experiences on the other platforms. So like shopping and feed on Instagram and stuff, which is becoming a much better utilized thing. And I think we probably need to utilize a bit better as well. And there's features in there, especially in influencer campaigns, when you're able to link your account to other people's Instagram accounts so that they can tag your product feed. That's interesting to me, and like disseminating it in that way.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting world to think about. And I also think if you bring in your tribe and a community and kind of create an experience that you can't get elsewhere, then maybe I would open up the app if it wasn't just product focused. Like you said, if there's content there, if there's something that's going to draw me in and keep me engaged. Yeah, but it does feel hard sometimes to keep me engaged on an app unless I get that dopamine hit, open it up and get something new. But that's a high bar to have, having something new every time.
Definitely a high bar to have. And then I think Casper, I don't think they have an app, but I've been in the market for a mattress. Man, I sound like a real materialistic consumer these days, but you're
about to get so many ads coming your way. They're going to hear you. They got the voice recognition and they're going to be blasting you.
I'm in the middle of trying to buy a mattress, and they executed on the text game really well. So we do text marketing, and it works really well on getting people past the last decision point. So they're like, I don't know if I want this size or that size. I don't know if you talk to a lot of people, but like text is great. People are like, I don't think people want to receive text messages. Surprise, surprise, they actually do. They don't care.
If you give them something they want, that's what I've heard is like text can be great if you're not just pushing products all day. And if it turns into a conversation and maybe giving them some kind of value instead of just like 10% off, it's a sale happening.
Yeah.
Like it needs to feel kind of personal and give value.
It does, but it's a balance, right? If you give them enough value and then when you need it, you can send that 10% off text. It still works. And that's worked really swimmingly for us. But I think the stakes are the same, if not lower. Maybe they're about the same of sending an email. Like just like with anything, don't overdo any piece of marketing. You'll annoy people. But I don't think it's any less or more annoying than any other piece of marketing I get from people, as long as it's not overdone. In Casper, if you go to their website, they just really did the text acquisition, the opt-in process really well. You know, they just did the 10% off if you sign up for the email, and they figured out a good way to do it for text as well. Oh, you want to get this coupon straight away? Let us text you. And I thought that was cool, a way of just like activating someone very quickly.
Yeah. Are there any other brands that you watch where you've kind of pulled some tricks from and you're like, I love watching Nike, I love watching Casper, and then actually trying that out within our own company?
Good question. I think I've listed the ones that I've noticed recently. I'm definitely Allbirds did a good job. I think I had a good, I'll just give you the sort of like outline of what that was, where I needed to return something. Well, first of all, obviously, you know, there's the way of tracking and making sure that you're in contact with what you bought and where it's coming and when it's coming. You know, that there's lots of good apps for that. We use one called ShipUp. And then I needed to return something, and I'm forgetting the name of the service, but now they've set up places you can just return something. Instead of shipping it back, you just drop it off at the local location. It's usually a business. It's a win-win. You bring someone into your business, you can return it there. And it was seamless. I remember in the store, the person, I think I was just in like some sort of random boutique dress store, and I was returning, I don't know, like a blender for Amazon.
Oh, that's
I'm making
cool.
those things up, but like it was that sort of distinct, that sort of contrast of what I was doing. And I remember them scanning the product, and then I got a notification of my refund directly on my phone in that second. I was like, that's awesome. Now I know when I buy from this person and I need to return, it's going to be seamless. I'm not going to worry about where my money is, where the product's going. And it made me want to buy from them again. It was great.
Oh, that's a good experience. I mean, I think that's such an important reminder too about like lifetime value of a customer. And it's not always about those quick hits. I mean, like you said, if I were to have an experience like that, I would buy many more things much more quickly. If I'm like, oh yeah, I can just go right next door and this boutique will take any of my returns for all my blenders that I buy.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. So what experimental things do you plan on doing over this next year or two that you're most excited about, but you don't know if it's going to work? Or maybe that your team's even telling you like, nah, Elish, like this is a bad idea.
Really good question. I'd have to go into my notes. I kind of ideate on this stuff a while, but you know, we tried some podcast stuff last year when, you know, money was a little bit more free flowing for us. We are a travel bag brand, so that's definitely taken a hit for us. And that was exciting at the time. We had a piece on Conan O'Brien's show, and I was like, Conan O'Brien said peak design. That was pretty cool. As far as I can tell, the CPMs for podcasts are still relatively low compared to other things. So I think that's great. I think there are some expansion in still our email practices on how we're collecting emails and moving outside of that. What you mentioned just now, what we talked about, the being able to shop our product in social posts that aren't even our own. There are some video technologies out there where you're shopping in video when it's placed on someone else's website. I think that's really cool. And then partnering with our distributors more on how they're representing our brand and kind of getting that more up-to-date message out quicker with them.
Yeah, well, I think it'll be interesting with all the pent-up demand of people wanting to travel and get out there. And it'll be fun to probably see a very different peak than maybe what you've seen over the past year or so. And y'all just have to be ready for it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right. Well, let's jump over to the lightning round. The lightning round is brought to you by Salesforce Commerce Cloud. This is where I ask a question and you have a minute or less to answer.
Okay.
Are you ready? You're like adjusting your seat, like, oh, gotta get ready for this.
Ready.
All right. First up, few people know that I like to play poker. Oh, that's a good one. Are you good at it?
I was a professional for a year. So right after grad school, I was looking for a job and I played live poker for a year. Yeah.
Awesome. What one thing do you not understand that you wish you did?
Oh, man. Yeah, I guess, just topic of the times right now is definitely the Bitcoin market and the different types and where, give me a glass ball of where that's going because I want in. I think every time I think I've figured it out, I learn something new and I don't. So I'd love to understand the future of the economics of how that's going to work.
Oh, if you were in the Austin area, I would tell you to come to our little crypto dinner that we do where we kind of go deep into futures and investing in that. And it's a very interesting space.
Okay.
So if you're around the area,
I'll come visit sometime for sure.
Yeah, that sounds good. A time when I made a powerful choice was when, what?
I've quit a lot of jobs and taken that chance on myself. And I did that when my last corporate job, if you will, I worked for American Express and I said, I'm just going to go figure it out. And I've never looked back. And I think, I know that's a common story, especially in our worlds, but that was the most freeing choice I've ever made. It's just, I will never work for a large corporation where I can't be in control of my destiny.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I agree. I think it's still always a good reminder though, because it's easy to get pulled in and good reminder to be able to have that freedom to do what you want. If you were to have a podcast, what would it be about? And who would your first guest be?
It would be something about just the kind of hilarity of the world, how it intersects, just how we all take ourselves so seriously, but then trying to basically pull back the layers of the onion on that, and then looking at how it's affected us as people when it comes to our depression, our nutrition, and how we live our lives. So it's basically all of the woo-woo things that you could think about for the millennial generation and make fun of it, but in a serious enough way to be it's going to be okay, man. People, I think we all get so caught up in how am I changing the world? What are we doing? And I think the message I'd like to tell most people is this is the message of the movie Soul. Did you see Soul?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's
So
oh man, I'm trying to do something big. And it's actually, you're doing the big thing. This is it.
Yeah. I like that. So who would your guest be then?
I think going back to Conan O'Brien, I love Conan. I think he's one of the funniest people out there. And I think he went through this crazy arc where he was supposed to take Jay Leno's spot and then they took it away from him. And then he he got pretty angry about it. And now he's still doing his own thing. And I'd love to talk to him about I think people have talked to him about that, but where he thought he saw himself going and now where he is now. And if he's okay with it. And it's just what perspective did it give him?
Yeah. Well, I love that. That'd be a good one. All right. And the last one, what one thing will have the biggest impact on e-commerce in the next year?
The climate and how we think about people and consumption. And, fast fashion is going out of fashion. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I hope anyway. But I actually don't know that because I don't know if I'm just in a bubble or I'm just in a bubble of people that care.
Yeah. No, I think I agree with that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, there's such a big shift now to sustainability and how companies are creating things and paying their employees and all that.
Yeah.
So I agree that was a good forcing function this past year or two to kind of think differently about all
Absolutely.
that. Well, Elish, it's been such a fun interview. Thanks for coming on the show. Where can people find out more about you and Peak Design?
Peakdesign.com. And I just have a contact button up, but you can go to elishpatel.com and email me if you have any questions.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a blast.
Thank you.
Hey listeners, thanks for tuning into this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you haven't already, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. It helps spread the word, and I would greatly appreciate it. See you next time.
Up Next in Commerce is brought to you by Salesforce Commerce Cloud and created by the team at mission.org. Subscribe now at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts.